Nira pressed her small, furry face against the shuttle window and felt her stomach turn. Below them, the planet called Earth filled the entire view. It was blue and green and white, and it looked beautiful from up here. But Nira knew better. She had read the reports. She had studied the files. This world was classified as a Category 12 death world, and they were about to land on it. "Look at those clouds, Vela," whispered from the seat beside her. The insectoid alien's thin wings were trembling. "They are moving so fast. What is causing them to move like that?" Professor Oren, their elderly teacher, leaned forward from his seat. His gray skin wrinkled as he spoke. "Those are storm systems, young one. Earth has violent atmospheric conditions. The planet's weather can change without warning. Wind, rain, lightning, and something the humans call hurricanes." Vela made a small clicking sound of fear. Nira reached over and held her friend's thin arm. She tried to feel brave, but her own heart was beating too fast. Keth, tall amphibian student sitting across from them, made a dismissive sound. "You are all being dramatic. The humans have lived on this planet for thousands of years. It cannot be that dangerous. I think the death world classification is political. The humans probably want us to feel afraid." Era said nothing. She simply pointed at the window. Through the clouds below, she could see a massive spiral of white. It was a storm system larger than her entire home continent. Lightning flashed inside it like electric veins. Keth looked at it and went quiet. The shuttle began its descent. As they passed through the atmosphere, the whole ship began to shake. Nira gripped her seat and tried not to scream. The pilot, a calm human woman, spoke through the speakers. "Just some normal turbulence, folks. Nothing to worry about. We will be landing in Seoul in 15 minutes. Normal turbulence." Nira made a mental note. Humans considered this normal. When the shuttle doors finally opened, Nira took her first breath of Earth air. It was warm and thick and strange. Her scanning device beeped immediately. She looked at the screen and felt her blood go cold. "Professor," she said quietly, "the atmosphere. It contains 21% oxygen." Professor Oren nodded slowly. "Yes, I should have warned you all. Earth's atmosphere is highly reactive. Oxygen at this concentration is used as an industrial oxidizer on most worlds. Here, the humans simply breathe it." Vela stumbled backward. "They breathe oxidizer. Every moment of every day?" "Every moment," the professor confirmed. "Their bodies have adapted to process it. In fact, they require it to survive. Without oxygen, a human will die in minutes." Keth was staring at his own scanning device now. His earlier confidence was gone. "The gravity," he said. "It is reading at 1 full G, that is nearly double my homeworld." As if to prove his point, he tried to take a step forward and nearly fell. His legs were not strong enough. Nira felt the weight too. It was like someone had placed heavy stones on her shoulders. Every movement required extra effort. A voice called out from across the landing area. "Hello, welcome to Earth." 3 humans were walking toward them. They moved quickly and smoothly, as if the gravity meant nothing to them. The one in front was a young male with short black hair and a calm expression. Behind him were a female with a bright smile and another male with a relaxed posture. "I am Tai-Ho," the first one said, bowing slightly. "These are my friends Yuna and Minho. We are your student guides for this semester. It is wonderful to meet you all," Yuna added. Her smile was very wide. Nira noticed that humans showed their teeth when they were happy. On most worlds, showing teeth was a threat display. Minho walked over to Vela, who was struggling with her luggage. Without asking, he picked up her 2 heavy bags with one hand. "Let me help you with those," he said casually. Vela stared at him. Those bags weighed nearly 40 kilograms combined. Minho carried them like they were empty. Nira recorded this in her notes. The humans had evolved under this crushing gravity. To them, the alien students must seem incredibly weak as they walked toward the transport vehicles. Nira stayed close to Tai-Ho. She had many questions. "Excuse me?" she said. "How do you survive here? The gravity, the atmosphere, the weather. How is this possible? Taiho looked down at her with a confused expression. Survive. This is just home. I do not really think about it. He paused and looked at the sky. It is a nice day today. Good weather for your arrival. Nice day? Good weather. Nira looked up. The sun was bright and harsh. The wind was blowing hard enough to push her small body. In the distance, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. This was what humans considered good weather. That evening, the alien students settled into their dormitory. It was a comfortable building with large windows and soft beds. Professor Oren had arranged for special dietary provisions and adjusted lighting for their various species. For a few hours, Nira almost forgot she was on a death world. Then the storm came. It started with a distant rumbling sound. Nira looked up from her notes. Vila was already at the window, her wings pressed flat against her back in fear. What is that sound? Vila asked. Before anyone could answer, the sky lit up with a brilliant flash of white light. A crack of thunder followed, so loud that Nira felt it in her chest. Rain began to fall in heavy sheets, pounding against the windows like thousands of tiny fists. Keth jumped to his feet. We need to find shelter. The building could be struck. Another flash of lightning split the sky. This one was close. Very close. Nira saw it hit a tall metal pole outside the building. Sparks flew everywhere. She screamed and dove under a table. The door to their common room opened. Taiho walked in, completely calm. He was carrying a tray with several cups on it. I brought tea, he said. I thought you might be scared of the storm. He set the tray down and walked to the window. Without any fear, he looked out at the lightning and rain. It is a strong one tonight. Summer storms can be intense. Are you not afraid? Nira asked from under the table. The lightning could kill you. Taiho turned and smiled at her. It was a gentle, reassuring smile. The building has lightning rods. They direct the electricity safely into the ground. We are perfectly safe inside. He walked over and offered her a cup of tea. His hand was steady. His heartbeat, which Nira could hear with her sensitive ears, was completely normal. This human was watching electricity fall from the sky, and he felt nothing but calm. Nira took the tea with shaking hands. It was warm and smelled like flowers. She watched Taiho help Vila away from the window and offer Keth a cup as well. Outside, the storm raged on. Thunder shook the walls. Lightning turned night into day, and the humans simply poured more tea. Nira opened her recording device, spoke quietly into it. Day 1 on Earth. First observation. The humans are not brave because they do not understand danger. They are brave because they have lived with danger so long that they no longer see it. This is only the beginning. I am terrified to learn what else this world contains. She looked at Taiho, who was now explaining the science of thunderstorms to a trembling Vila. He spoke about electricity and temperature and air pressure. He spoke as if these deadly forces were simply interesting facts. Nira took a sip of her tea. It was going to be a long semester. The university lecture hall was large and bright. Nira sat in the front row with her recording device ready. Beside her, Vila was still nervous from last night's storm. Keth sat behind them, his arms crossed, trying to look unimpressed. But Nira could see that his scales had changed color slightly. He was more shaken than he wanted to admit. The human professor was a middle-aged woman named Dr. Park. She smiled warmly at the alien students as she prepared her. And patient. Today, she said, we will learn about human evolution. Where we came from, how we became what we are. Nira leaned forward with interest. This was exactly what she wanted to understand. How did humans become the dominant species of a death world? The first image appeared on the screen. It showed a vast grassland under a burning sun. Humans evolved here, Dr. Park explained. The African savanna. This environment shaped everything about us. She clicked to the next slide. Nira heard Vila make a small choking sound. The image showed a massive creature with golden fur and huge teeth. Its eyes were cold and predatory. This is a lion, Dr. Park said calmly. One of many apex predators that shared our environment. Lions are fast, strong, and they hunt in groups. Early humans had to compete with these animals for survival. More images followed. Hyenas with crushing jaws, crocodiles with armored skin and death roll attacks, leopards that dragged prey into trees, venomous snakes that hid in grass. Each image was worse than the last. Your ancestors lived among these creatures? Keth asked. His voice was higher than usual. Dr. Park nodded. Not just lived among them. We survived them. We studied their patterns. We learned when they hunted and where they slept. And eventually we became the hunters ourselves. She clicked to a new slide. This one showed early humans holding simple spears. This is where it gets interesting. Humans are not the fastest animals. We are not the strongest. Our teeth and claws are small. So how did we hunt? She paused for effect. Endurance. The next slide showed a diagram of human legs and feet. Dr. Park continued. Humans evolved to run long distances. Not fast, but steady. Our bodies can cool themselves through sweating, which most animals cannot do. So our ancestors would find an animal and simply follow it. For hours. Sometimes for an entire day. Nira felt confused. I do not understand. How does that help? Yuna, who was sitting nearby, turned around to answer. The animal would run away, but it could not cool down. It would overheat. Eventually, it would collapse from exhaustion. Then our ancestors would walk up to it and finish it. You chased your prey until it died from running, Vela whispered. We call it persistence hunting, Yuna said with a casual shrug. It is pretty effective. The alien students sat in stunned silence. Nira had read about many predator species across the galaxy. Some were fast. Some were strong. Some had venom or claws or superior numbers. But she had never heard of a species that simply refused to stop following its prey until the prey gave up and died. It was terrifying. After the lecture, the students walked to the university cafeteria for lunch. Nira was still processing what she had learned. Humans were endurance predators. They could chase prey for hours without stopping. What other abilities were they hiding? The cafeteria was crowded with human students eating and talking. The noise was overwhelming. Nira noticed that humans seemed to enjoy being in large groups. They were social predators. Of course they were. Taiho led them to a table and helped them order food. The kitchen prepared special meals for you, he said. But if you want to try human food, I can recommend some things. Keth, still trying to prove his bravery, nodded. I will try what you are eating. Taiho smiled. Are you sure? Korean food can be a little spicy. I am sure. Taiho ordered a bowl of red soup for Keth and a plate of rice with various side dishes for himself. When the food arrived, Nira immediately scanned Taiho's plate with her device. The readings made her gasp. Taiho, she said slowly, what is that red vegetable on your plate? Kimchi, he said, picking some up with his chopsticks. It is fermented cabbage with chili pepper. Very common in Korean food. Nira looked at her scanner again. My device says the chemical capsaicin is present at very high levels. Capsaicin is classified as a chemical irritant. It is used in defensive weapons on my world. Taiho chewed his kimchi and swallowed. Yes, it is spicy. That is what makes it delicious. You eat chemical weapons for pleasure? Yuna laughed from across the table. When you say it like that, it sounds strange. But yes, many humans enjoy spicy food. It causes a burning sensation, but it also makes the brain release happy chemicals. It feels good. Keth had taken a spoonful of his red soup. His face changed color immediately. His eyes went wide. He opened his mouth and made a sound that was somewhere between a scream and a cough. He grabbed a glass of water and drank the entire thing. Too spicy? Minnow asked with a grin. Keth could not answer. He was too busy fanning his mouth and making distressed sounds. Later that afternoon, the alien students had another class with Professor Oren. This one focused on Earth's history. The professor had prepared a presentation of his own. I want you to understand something, Professor Oren said. Humans did not become strong in a gentle environment. Their planet has tried to kill them many times, and every time they survived. The first image showed a frozen landscape. Ice ages, the professor said. Multiple times in Earth's history, massive sheets of ice covered large portions of the planet. Temperatures dropped. Food became scarce. Many species died. Humans adapted, built shelters, made warm clothing, and survived. The next image showed a massive asteroid approaching a planet. 66 million years ago, an asteroid struck Earth and killed most life on the planet, including the dinosaurs. The ancestors of humans were small mammals at the time. They survived by hiding underground and eating whatever they could find. More images followed. Volcanic eruptions that blocked the sun for years. Plagues that killed millions. Floods, droughts, famines. Each time, humans found a way to continue. 70,000 years ago, Professor Oren continued, a supervolcano erupted in what is now Indonesia. It caused a global winter. Scientists believe the human population dropped to fewer than 10,000 individuals. The entire species almost went extinct. But they survived, Nira said quietly. They survived, the professor confirmed. And they spread across every continent on Earth. They adapted to jungles, deserts, mountains, and frozen wastelands. There is no environment on this planet where humans have not learned to live. Vila raised her trembling hand. Professor, why are we here? If Earth is so dangerous, why did the Academy send us? Professor Oren was quiet for a moment. Because humans are joining the galactic community, and we need to understand them. They are not like us. They did not evolve on gentle worlds with stable climates and predictable environments. They were forged in chaos, shaped by extinction events, hardened by predators and disasters and the constant threat of death. He looked at each of his students. The galaxy has many species that are stronger than humans, faster than humans, more intelligent than humans. But I am not sure any species is more resilient, and that makes them important. That night, Nira sat in her room and reviewed her notes. She had recorded everything. The predators. The persistence hunting. The capsaicin consumption. The ice ages and asteroids and volcanic winters. Each fact was more incredible than the last. She looked out her window at the dark sky. The storm from last night was gone. The stars were visible now, tiny points of light in the blackness. Somewhere out there was her home. A gentle world with soft weather and no predators and a stable climate. She had always thought her people were normal. Now she understood that her people were lucky. They had evolved in paradise. Humans had evolved in a war zone, and they had one. Nira spoke into her recorder. Day 2 on Earth. I am beginning to understand why the humans are the way they are. They do not know peace. They do not know safety. From their very first day as a species, they have been fighting for survival. And I think that fight never stopped. I think it made them into something incredible. She paused and looked at her notes again. I think I am starting to admire them. The transport vehicle wound its way up the mountain road, and Nira watched the city disappear behind them. Trees replaced buildings. The air grew cooler and fresher. According to the schedule, they were going on a nature walk in a place called Siraxan National Park. Yuna had described it as a simple beginner trail. Perfect for new visitors. Nira had learned not to trust human definitions of simple. When they arrived at the trailhead, Nira looked up at the mountain and felt her heart sink. The path ahead climbed steeply upward, winding between massive rocks and thick forest. Clouds drifted between the peaks. The wind was strong enough to make the trees bend. This is the beginner trail? Keth asked. He was breathing heavily just from walking across the parking area. One of the easiest ones, Minho confirmed. He was wearing a large backpack that seemed to weigh nothing on his shoulders. The views at the top are beautiful. It is only about 4 kilometers. It's only 4 kilometers. Uphill, on a planet with crushing gravity, through a forest filled with unknown dangers. Nira made a note in her recorder. Humans have a different understanding of the word easy. They began walking. Within the first 100 meters, Vela was struggling. Her thin legs were not designed for climbing. Her wings, which normally helped her balance, were useless in the dense forest. She stumbled on a rock and nearly fell. Tai-Ho was beside her instantly. "Would you like me to carry you?" he asked gently. "It is no trouble." "I cannot ask you to do that," Vela said. "The trail is long." Tai-Ho simply smiled, knelt down, and let Vela climb onto his back. Then he stood up and continued walking as if nothing had changed. He carried the insectoid alien up the mountain path without slowing down, without breathing hard. Without any sign of effort, Professor Oren leaned close to Nira. "Remember what we learned about human endurance?" he said quietly. "They can maintain physical activity for hours. What seems impossible to us is routine to them." The forest was beautiful but strange. Nira had never seen so many different types of plants in one place. Tall trees blocked the sunlight. Ferns and flowers covered the ground. Mushrooms grew on fallen logs. Insects buzzed through the air. It was a complete ecosystem, wild and uncontrolled. On her homeworld, nature was managed. Parks were designed. Every plant was placed with purpose. Here, the forest simply existed. It grew and changed and died and regrew without any guidance. It was chaos, and somehow it worked. After an hour of hiking, Minho suddenly stopped and raised his hand. Everyone went quiet. "Nobody moved," he said softly. "Look to the left," slowly. Nira turned her head and felt terror grip her body. Standing in the trees about 20 meters away was a massive animal. It was covered in dark, rough fur. Its nose was flat and wet. Its eyes were small and angry. Two curved tusks jutted from its mouth. "Wild boar," Tai-Ho whispered. He had put Vela down and was standing between the alien students and the creature. "They can be aggressive if they feel threatened. We need to back away slowly." "Aggressive?" Keth squeaked. "What do you mean aggressive?" "They might charge," Yuna explained, her voice calm. "A boar that size could seriously hurt someone. But if we do not threaten it, it will probably leave us alone." Probably. Nira did not find that word comforting. Minho picked up a long stick from the ground. "I will stay between us and the boar." Everyone walked backward. No sudden movements. No loud sounds. They retreated step by step. The boar watched them with those small, angry eyes. It snorted once, loudly, and Vela let out a small cry of fear. But Tai-Ho put a hand on her shoulder and kept her moving. After what felt like hours, the boar turned and walked away into the forest. Nira did not relax until the creature was completely out of sight. "Does that happen often?" she asked. "Sometimes," Minho said, putting down his stick. "The mountain is their home too. We are just visitors." Humans shared their world with dangerous animals. They hiked through forests where predators roamed freely, and they called it recreation. The group continued up the mountain. The sky, which had been clear that morning, began to change. Dark clouds rolled in from the west. The temperature dropped sharply. Nira could feel the moisture in the air increasing. "Weather is turning," Yuna announced. She was already opening her backpack. "I brought rain gear. Everyone put these on." She distributed thin plastic coverings to each alien student. They were lightweight and folded small, but they expanded into full-body protection. Nira put hers on and watched the humans do the same. They moved with practiced efficiency. This was not new to them. "You expected this," Nira said. Yuna nodded. "Mountain weather is unpredictable. You always prepare for rain, even if the forecast says clear. It is just smart planning." Humans expected their environment to try to kill them. They did not hope for safety. They prepared for danger. It was built into their thinking. The rain came fast and hard. Within minutes, the trail became slippery with water and mud. The temperature continued to drop. Nira's body was not designed for cold. She began to shiver. Then Keth slipped. He was walking on a wet rock when his foot shot out from under him. He fell sideways and his arm scraped against a sharp stone. Blue blood began flowing from the wound. "Keth." Professor Oren rushed to his student's side. The old alien looked at the wound with horror. "This is serious. We need medical evacuation. He could be infected. The bleeding must be stopped professionally." Yuna was already there. She opened her backpack and pulled out a small white box. "First aid kit," she said. "Let me see the wound." She examined Keth's arm with careful fingers. "The cut is not deep. No major blood vessels are hit. We need to clean it and bandage it. He will be fine." "Fine?" Professor Oren stared at her. "He is injured on a mountainside in hostile conditions. How can he be fine?" Una smiled patiently. She cleaned the wound with antiseptic, applied a healing gel, and wrapped it with a bandage. The whole process took less than 3 minutes. "There," she said. "Keep it dry and clean. We will have a doctor look at it when we get back, but you should heal well." Keth looked at his bandaged arm in amazement. "That is it. On my world, this would require a hospital visit." Minho laughed and pulled up his sleeve. His arm was covered in faint scars. "I got these when I was a child. Falling off bicycles, climbing trees, playing sports. Humans get injured all the time. We learn to handle it." He pulled up his pant leg. More scars. This one was from a cooking accident. Hot oil. This one was from a hiking trip. I fell farther than I should have. Broke my ankle, but it healed. The alien student stared at his collection of old wounds. Any one of them would have been a major medical event on their worlds. To Minho, they were just memories of an active childhood. They made camp that night in a small clearing. Taiho built a fire using wood and a small metal tool that created sparks. The flames provided warmth and light. The alien students gathered close, grateful for the heat. "Do you want to hear a story?" Taiho asked. "Korean folklore has many interesting tales," the aliens agreed. Anything to distract from the darkness of the forest around them. Taiho began speaking in a low, steady voice. "Long ago, there was a creature called a gumaho. It looked like a beautiful woman, but it was actually a fox with 9 tails. It would trick travelers and eat their hearts to gain power." Vela made a frightened sound. "Your stories are about monsters that eat people?" "Many of them," Taiho admitted. "We also have stories about Dakabi, mischievous spirits that play tricks on humans, and the Jangzin tiger, a creature that mimics human voices to lure victims into the mountains." "Why would you tell such stories?" Nira asked. Taiho stared into the fire. "I think our ancestors wanted to warn us. The world was dangerous. The forests were full of real threats. So they created stories to teach children to be careful, to stay alert, to never assume safety. Even human entertainment was about survival. Their art, their culture, their stories were all shaped by the constant presence of danger. They had never known a world without threats. So they built those threats into their imagination." Nira looked up at the stars through the gaps in the trees. She was cold and tired and still shaken from the day's events. But she also felt something new. Something like respect. These humans were not reckless. They were prepared. They carried first aid kits and rain gear and fire-starting tools. They knew how to handle wildlife encounters and sudden weather changes and injuries. They had spent thousands of generations learning to survive, and they had become incredibly good at it. "Taiho," she said softly. "Thank you for bringing us here." He looked at her with surprise. "You are enjoying yourself?" "I am learning," Nira said. "Every moment on this planet teaches me something. I think I am beginning to understand you. Your people. Your strength." Taiho smiled warmly. "We are not that special. We are just human. Just human." Nira recorded those words in her mind. Someday she would explain to the galaxy exactly what those words meant. 2 weeks had passed since the hiking trip. Nira had almost started to feel comfortable on Earth. She still found the gravity heavy and the weather unpredictable. But she was learning to adapt. The humans were good teachers. They were patient and kind, and they never made fun of the alien students for being afraid. That night, Nira was in the common room of the dormitory working on her research notes. Vela was reading a Korean picture book that Una had given her. Keth was studying human history on a tablet, his bandaged arm now mostly healed. Professor Oren had gone to bed early, exhausted from another day of observations. The clock showed past midnight. The building was quiet. Outside, the city lights of Seoul sparkled like a field of stars. Then the floor began to shake at first. Nira thought she was imagining it. A small vibration, barely noticeable. But within seconds, it grew stronger. The furniture began to rattle. Her glass of water fell off the table and shattered on the floor. "What is happening?" Vila screamed. She tried to stand, but the shaking threw her back down. Keth grabbed the edge of his chair, his face white with terror. "The building is collapsing. We need to run." The shaking grew even more violent. Books fell from shelves. Lights flickered. A deep rumbling sound filled the air, like the planet itself was growling. The door burst open. Taiho, Yuna, and Minho rushed in. Their movements were fast but controlled. There was no panic in their eyes. "Get under the tables," Taiho commanded. "Now, cover your heads." Before Nira could respond, Taiho grabbed her and pushed her under a heavy wooden table. Minho did the same with Keth. Yuna guided Vila to safety and covered the small alien with her own body. "What is this?" Nira shouted over the rumbling. "What is happening?" "Earthquake," Yuna said. Her voice was calm. "The ground is shaking. It will pass. Stay down and protect your head." The word hit Nira like a physical blow. She had read about these. Planets with active geology sometimes experience shifts in their crust. The resulting shock waves could destroy buildings, create massive cracks in the ground, and kill thousands of people. And humans lived on such a planet. By choice, the shaking continued for what felt like an eternity. In reality, it was probably less than a minute. But during that minute, Nira understood true helplessness. There was nothing she could do. Nothing anyone could do. The planet was moving, and all living things upon it were simply passengers. Finally, the rumbling faded. The vibrations slowed. The building stopped shaking. Taiho stood up immediately. "Is everyone okay?" "Sound off." "I am okay," Nira said, crawling out from under the table. "I am uninjured," Keth added, though his voice was shaking. Vela made a small sound that might have been yes. Yuna was still holding her protectively. "Good," Taiho said. "We need to check for damage and prepare for aftershocks. The first quake is not always the last." Aftershocks. There could be more. Nira felt her stomach turn. Minho was already moving through the room, checking windows and walls. "No visible cracks," he reported. "Structure seems stable. But we should move away from the windows just in case." Yuna gently helped Vila to a chair in the center of the room. The insectoid alien was trembling so hard that her wings were buzzing. "How are you so calm?" Vela whispered. "The planet just attacked us." Yuna smiled gently. "We practice for this. In Korean schools, all children learn earthquake drills. We know what to do. Drop, cover, hold on. We have been training since we were small. You train your children to survive planetary instability?" Keth asked. He sounded horrified. "Of course," Taiho said. "Earthquakes happen here. Not often, but often enough. We cannot stop them, so we prepare for them instead. Every building is designed to withstand shaking. Every person knows the safety procedures. It is just part of life. It's just part of life. The planet tries to shake itself apart, and humans simply adapt their entire society to survive it." Professor Oren appeared in the doorway. He looked old and exhausted, but unhurt. "I heard the commotion. Is everyone safe?" "Safe," Taiho confirmed. The earthquake was moderate, maybe a 5 or 6 on the scale. Buildings in this area are built to handle much worse. The professor sat down heavily. "In all my years of research, I have never experienced anything like that. The entire planet moved." "Earth has active plate tectonics," Minho explained. "The crust is broken into large pieces that float on liquid rock. Sometimes they push against each other. That pressure builds up and then releases suddenly. That is an earthquake. Your planet is built on floating rocks that crash into each other," Nira said flatly. "And you live here anyway. Where else would we go?" Taiho asked. It was not a joke. It was a genuine question. To humans, this was normal. This was home. Vela suddenly began to cry. Not soft, quiet tears, but deep, shaking sobs, that seemed to come from her very core. Yuna held her close and made soft, comforting sounds. "I understand now," Vela said between sobs. "I finally understand. This planet is not just dangerous. It does not just have dangerous things on it. The planet itself is dangerous. The ground shakes. The sky throws lightning. The weather changes without warning. Everything here is trying to kill you. Everything." She looked up at the humans with wide, wet eyes. "And you survive anyway. You do not just survive. You build cities. You create art. You laugh and sing and make tea during storms. You live on a world that wants you dead, and you refuse to die." Taiho knelt down beside her. His expression was kind but serious. "Vela, Earth does not want us dead. Earth does not want anything. It is just a planet. It has storms and earthquakes and predators because that is how it formed. We do not take it personally. How can you not?" Vela asked. "Because if we took it personally, we would go crazy," Taiho said. "So we accept it. We prepare for it. And we keep living. That is all we can do." Keth, who had been silent since the earthquake ended, slowly stood up. He walked over to Taiho and stood before him. His posture was formal. His head was bowed. "I owe you an apology," Keth said. "When I came to Earth, I thought the Deathworld classification was exaggeration, political propaganda. I thought humans were trying to seem more impressive than they were." He raised his head and looked Taiho in the eyes. "I was wrong. I was completely, absolutely wrong. You are not exaggerating. If anything, you are understating. This planet should not have produced intelligent life. It should have killed everything a million times over. But instead, it produced you. A species that refuses to be killed." Taiho looked uncomfortable with the praise. "Keth, really? We are not special." "You are," Keth insisted. "You are the most special species I have ever encountered. Not because you are the smartest or the strongest or the fastest, but because you are still here. Against all odds, against the universe itself. You are still here." An alarm began to sound in the distance. Sirens, like the ones Nira had heard in human emergency vehicles. "Rescue services," Minho said. "They deploy automatically after earthquakes above a certain magnitude. They will check buildings, help injured people, and restore services." Within minutes, they could hear helicopters overhead. Trucks rolled through the streets. Organized teams of humans in bright uniforms began moving through the area, checking structures and assisting anyone who needed help. Nira watched through the window as the emergency response unfolded. It was like watching a well-rehearsed dance. Every person knew their role. Every team knew their area. There was no chaos, no confusion, no panic. Just calm, efficient action. "Actually, you have systems for this," she said in wonder. "Entire organizations designed to respond to disasters." "Many organizations," Yuna confirmed. "Fire departments, medical teams, search and rescue, engineers, government coordination centers. When something bad happens, we all work together. Because bad things happen often enough that you need permanent systems to handle them." Yuna nodded. "Bad things happen everywhere. The difference is that we decided to be ready for them." At night, no one slept. The alien students sat with their human guides and talked until sunrise. They talked about earthquakes and typhoons and volcanic eruptions. They talked about wars and plagues and famines. They talked about every disaster that had ever struck Earth and how humans had responded. And with every story, Nira understood a little more. Humans did not become strong in spite of their world. They became strong because of it. Every challenge made them smarter. Every disaster taught them to prepare better. Every threat pushed them to work together, to build systems, to create solutions. Earth was a death world. That was true, but it was also a school. The harshest school in the galaxy. And humans had graduated at the top of their class. As the sun rose over Seoul, Nira looked at Taiho, who was finally starting to look tired. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For showing me what survival looks like. Real survival, not just existing, but fighting for existence every single day and never giving up." Taiho smiled. "We do not think of it as fighting. We just think of it as living, Nira nodded. That, she realized, was exactly what made humans so remarkable. They did not see their strength as strength. They saw it as normal. She could not wait to tell the rest of the galaxy. The semester ended on a warm autumn day. The leaves in Seoul had turned gold and red and orange, painting the city in colors that Nira had never seen on her homeworld. She stood on the balcony of the dormitory and breathed in the cool air. Earth, air filled with reactive oxygen and strange smells and invisible dangers. She loved it. 3 months had passed since she first landed on this planet. 3 months of fear and wonder and discovery. She had watched lightning strike the ground. She had climbed a mountain through dangerous terrain. She had eaten capsaicin and survived an earthquake. She had seen things that would fill textbooks on her world, and now it was time to leave. Nir turned away from the view and went to her room. Her bags were packed. Her research notes were complete. She had recorded over 200 hours of observations, interviews, and analysis. It was enough material for 10 academic papers. Maybe more. But the real treasure was not in her recordings. It was in her heart. She had come to Earth expecting to study an interesting species on a dangerous planet. Instead, she had found friends. That evening, the humans organized a farewell dinner. It was held in a traditional Korean restaurant, a beautiful wooden building with paper screens and low tables. The smell of cooking meat filled the air. Korean barbecue, Yuna explained as they sat down. You cook the meat yourself at the table. It is a social experience. Very important in our culture. The alien students had grown more adventurous with human food over the months. Nira selected mild pieces without too much seasoning. Keth chose vegetables that he knew were safe for his biology. Even Vila, who had been terrified of everything at the start, tried a small piece of pork. It is good, Vila admitted. Not as dangerous as I expected, Taiho laughed. You have become brave, Vila. The Vila who arrived 3 months ago would never have tried barbecue. Vila's wings fluttered with what Nira now recognized as alien embarrassment. I have learned many things here. The most important thing I learned is that fear is not the same as weakness. You can be afraid and still act. That is what courage means. Where did you learn that? Minho asked. From watching you, Vila said simply. All of you. Every day. You are afraid of things too. I know you are. But you do them anyway. You climb mountains and build cities on fault lines and eat poison for fun. You feel fear, but you never let it stop you. Professor Oren raised his glass of water. A toast, he said. To our human hosts. You have shown us more in 3 months than we could have learned in years of academic study. Thank you for your patience, your kindness, and your courage. Even Nira, who did not fully understand the human tradition, lifted her cup and drank. After the meal, Taiho pulled out a small box and handed it to Vela. A gift, he said. Something to remember us by. Vela opened the box with trembling hands. Inside was a small charm, carved from green stone. It was shaped like a turtle, smooth and polished and beautiful. In Korean culture, the turtle represents long life and protection, Taiho explained. I want you to have this so you remember that you are stronger than you think. You survived Earth, Vela. You can survive anything. Vela held the charm to her chest. Her eyes were wet with tears. I will treasure this forever, she whispered. Thank you, Taiho. Thank you for everything. Nira watched the exchange and felt her own eyes burning. She blinked quickly, trying to maintain her composure. She was supposed to be a researcher, an observer, a scientist. She was not supposed to get emotional, but she was emotional. These humans had become her friends, real friends, and tomorrow she would leave them behind. Later that night, Keth shared his academic paper with the group. He had been working on it for weeks, ever since the earthquake. The title was Reconsidering Deathworld Classifications, a case study of human resilience. My thesis is simple, Keth explained. The galactic community has always viewed Deathworld species as primitive, savage, dangerous. We assume that harsh environments produce harsh people. But my research shows the opposite. Pulled up a chart on his tablet. Humans are among the most cooperative species in known space. They build complex social systems. They share resources. They help strangers in emergencies. They create art and music and stories. They are not savage at all. They are remarkably civilized. Then why are they so strong? Professor Oren asked. Because civilization requires strength, Keth answered. Think about it. To build a city on a planet that has earthquakes, you need engineering. To survive predators, you need teamwork. To overcome disease, you need medicine. Every challenge forced humans to become smarter, more organized, more cooperative. Their world did not make them brutal. It made them brilliant, Minho grinned. Keth, you are making us blush. I am making a scientific observation, Keth said seriously. Humans are not strong despite your world. You are strong because of it. The galaxy should stop treating Deathworld species as threats and start treating them as potential allies. Perhaps even teachers. The next morning, the alien shuttle landed in the same field where they had arrived 3 months ago. The weather was clear and cool. A perfect autumn day. Nira stood with her bags and looked at the 3 humans who had become so important to her. Taiho calm and reliable. Yuna warm and caring. Minho relaxed and confident. They had carried her up mountains and protected her during earthquakes and taught her things she would never forget. I do not want to leave, she admitted. Yuna pulled her into a hug. Human hugs had been strange at first. So much physical contact. But now, Nira understood. Humans expressed affection through touch. It was another survival adaptation, a way to strengthen social bonds and build trust. You can always come back, Yuna said. Earth will be here. We will be here. Actually, Vela said softly, I have been meaning to tell everyone something. She took a deep breath. I have applied to return next semester. For another 3 months? The Academy approved my application yesterday. Everyone stared at her. Vela, who had been terrified of every shadow. Vela, who had cried during thunderstorms and panicked during earthquakes. Vela, who had needed to be carried up a mountain because she could not walk in Earth's gravity. You want to come back? Nira asked. Vela nodded. She was trembling, but her voice was steady. I am still afraid. I do not think I will ever not be afraid of this world. But I have learned that fear is not a reason to run away. It is a reason to stay and learn and grow. I want to be brave like the humans. And the only way to become brave is to keep facing the things that scare you. Taiho smiled. It was a proud smile, like a teacher watching a student graduate. We will be happy to have you back, Vela, and next time, I will teach you to hike on your own 2 feet. Vela laughed. It was a wonderful sound. The shuttle engines began to warm up. It was time to go. Nia hugged each human one more time. She tried to memorize their faces, their voices, their warmth. She wanted to remember everything. Then she climbed into the shuttle with the others. The door closed. The vehicle lifted off, and Earth fell away beneath them. From the window, Nira watched the planet shrink. The mountains and cities and oceans became smaller and smaller until they disappeared into blue and green and white. The clouds swirled. The storms moved. The world continued, indifferent to her departure. She pulled out her recording device and spoke her final observation. This is Nira. Final log entry. Day 92 on Earth. She paused, gathering her thoughts. When we arrived, we asked a simple question. Why is Earth called a death world? We expected simple answers. Dangerous predators. Toxic atmosphere. Unstable geology. And yes, all of those things are true. Earth is deadly. Perhaps the deadliest inhabited planet in the galaxy. She looked out the window at the shrinking blue sphere. But I understand now that we were asking the wrong question. The right question is not why Earth is called a death world. The right question is how humans survived it. And the answer is simple. She took a breath. They refused to die. That is it. That is the entire answer. Every challenge this planet threw at them, they overcame. Every predator that hunted them, they outran. Every disease that infected them, they developed immunity. Every disaster that struck them, they rebuilt. They did not give up. They never gave up. For hundreds of thousands of years, they looked at death and said, no. She felt tears running down her face, but did not wipe them away. We call Earth a death world because it is full of things that kill. But the humans call it home, and they have earned the right to call it that. They have paid for that right in blood and sweat and tears, generation after generation. Since the very beginning of their species, she watched Earth disappear into the darkness of space. I came here to study aliens. Instead, I found heroes. Ordinary heroes who do not even know they are heroic. They think they are normal. They think everyone faces storms and earthquakes and predators. They do not understand how special they are. She smiled through her tears. But I understand. And I will make sure the galaxy understands too. Humans are not monsters from a death world. They are survivors. They are warriors. They are the most stubbornly alive species I have ever known. She turned off her recorder and looked at her fellow passengers. Vila was clutching her turtle charm. Keth was reading his paper one more time. Professor Oren was already asleep, exhausted from the emotional farewell. Nira leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes. She did not know what the future held. She did not know if the galaxy would accept her findings or dismiss them. She did not know if humans and aliens would ever truly understand each other, but she knew one thing for certain. She was going to try, just like the humans had taught her. She was going to face the unknown, feel the fear, and keep moving forward anyway. That was the human way. And now, it was her way too. The shuttle flew on, carrying its passengers away from Earth and toward the stars. Behind them, the death world continued to turn. Storms gathered. Earthquakes rumbled. Predators hunted. And 8 billion humans went about their daily lives, surviving another day on the deadliest planet in the galaxy, just another ordinary day on Earth.